Michael, over to you,
Tony.
part two.
That's a fiver I owe you, Abby. Chapter 10, the heart seed. Here's the Josephism from chapter 10. Only when the individual consciousness has been relocated to the heart can it grow. Now, personal notes on this chapter. Something extremely important happened at the point that we sat to bring through chapter 10, because the duo of sitters thus far, myself and David, became a trio of sitters. Jane and myself connected again. I say again because we've done this work together before. And it wasn't a matter of us connecting for the first time, but of reconnecting on earth as the eternally integrated couple, the angel that we really are. And I don't mean that arrogantly. Each of you is an angel too. As Joseph says, we've just forgotten that fact. Jane and myself often wonder, not having full access to our memories of spirits, at what point were we persuaded? No doubt by the Persian gentleman, had to be, by PG, that we should be the ones to go back again and help Joseph again by acting as receivers of his communications and spreaders of the information during our lifetimes. Did we initially say spiritual things like, "You must be joking"? You're having a laugh, aren't you? How about this? This time we'll stay by the pool and let you go down, thank you very much. And did they then tempt us by saying, "Go back down there and there will be all kinds of benefits for you, you know?
Chocolates.
You'll be able to drive very small cars. And one of them will even work. You'll be able to take every 8th day off whether you need to or not." No matter, here we are, and this is our function. And once we reconnected, revelation came through much more quickly. And we were able to more regularly sit, and with there now being 3 of us, there was more energy available for me, and more available power to maintain the link with Joseph. Of course, at a later date, the 3 of us would become 4, with Tony joining us to bring through future books and to subsequently become the focus, the core focus for the WMA family. So, what's the heart seed, chapter 10, all about in a nutshell? In chapter 10, Joseph talks about the seed of heart consciousness, and about how heart consciousness, rather than head-mind consciousness, emerges on earth for the individual via circumstances that unfold around that individual and stimulate and encourage thinking from the heart rather than from the head. So, many of the challenges that we come across are there for a purpose, and they're there to waken us up. It's like bashing your head against a brick wall. Eventually you say, "That hurts, I'm going to stop doing that. I'll think of something else." And so the challenges that are around us eventually become a contrast to how life should be lived and the opportunities that living a spiritual life can give us. And we think, there is another way. I must investigate that other way. Joseph taps his heart center during this chapter and tells us, were we to see him spiritually, we would see a large sphere of light emanating from the region of his heart. We often see illustrations, spiritual illustrations, don't we? And there's light flooding out from the chakras, different colors of light. With Joseph, there is a large sphere of light emanating from his heart. That's the love he has and the light he has accumulated, earned, as a result of many lives and many experiences here. This is the individual expansion of the dot within the circle, the growth of God consciousness within the individual. But were you to look at many souls on earth, unfortunately, at the moment, you would only see the tiniest glimmer of spiritual light, unfortunately, from this center, a little pilot light, waiting to be ignited, waiting to blossom into a decent flame. Having decided, not being forced, decided to incarnate here again, energies and situations play around our souls to encourage the emergence and growth of heart consciousness, the expression of God consciousness within the individual, so that we become more used to operating from here rather than from here. And this becomes the center of our focus. And all our directions, all our guidance comes from here, not from this computer. Each soul, having come back here, is prompted by what plays around that soul during its life on earth to stimulate that heart seed, to grow in consciousness of who and what they are, realization of what they really are. Joseph's mission, and the mission of the soul group, is to reseat consciousness in individuals from the head to the heart. As he says, only when the individual consciousness has been relocated to the heart can it grow. And again, with regard to higher vibrations, how can the individual appreciate anything centered in love, as the higher vibrations are, when it is centered only in data, only in earthly logic? At the moment, sorry Jen, I just wanted to, at the moment, society wants to know, when do I go out? When do I stay in? What do I eat? When do I eat it? What car do I drive? Where do I go in that car? How many miles do I go in that car? When do I go to sleep? When do I wake up? Which shops do I go to? Etc., etc., etc. Times billions of souls. What are you going to do with all that useless information, that useless data? How does it profit you? Oh yes, you might be able to sell me things. You might be able to put up on YouTube ads that relate to what I've been talking about privately 2 days before. But what does it profit you? Why must you know everything about me as an individual? Better to know everything about yourself as an individual. Because you are gathering data, I would say to these souls, every day of your life, every minute of your life. And that data is not useless, that data is useful. Because everything that you record will eventually be played out in front of you and around you so that you can evaluate what you have done whilst you were on earth. How frightening is that? How frightening is that? Are you listening? How frightening is that? There's no escaping it. There is no escaping it. And you will see, not only will you see everything that you have done that is positive and everything that you have done that is negative, you will also, if you have mistreated someone, if you have harmed someone, if you have controlled someone, if you have caused pain to someone, you will, for a moment, become that someone and experience what they experienced as a result of you harming them. How frightening is that? That is real data, and there's no escaping from it. So yes, record when I go out, when I come in. It's useless to you. Think instead of the data you are collecting that one day you will replay and will be of tremendous importance to you, because until you have moved on and learned from what you got wrong, you'll be stuck where you are. Rant over.
A change of vibration will come around 2016. It will appear until that time as though things are being taken to the brink, and they are. Conditions have to be tested. They have to be pushed to the point where people say, enough of this, there must be another way. Only by letting souls take themselves to the brink can you help them to rediscover their true identity, their true selves. So there is a slow shift in thinking from the head to the heart, which is happening at this time. Again, I must return to why there are problems on your world. It is because the instigators of those problems are operating on that low spectrum of what they're able to see. Once they begin to perceive with the heart mind, things will begin to expand as they see and sense more spiritually.
And Joseph goes on to explain that the heart consciousness is a seed, the true God part of the human being, the sentient being which seeks to grow but is masked by the physical mind acting like a computer, like a switchboard, as a sensor to spiritual truth, and by the physical mind believing that what it sees on this level of reality is the only level of existence possible. And this makes a nonsense, doesn't it, of society's current preoccupation, as we said, with AI. And its incessant obsession, as I've said, with data collection.
Gradually, the heart seed has to open. The God-child within the physical framework has to manifest itself and work its way through the denser vibrations of the physical body and the physical mind in order to evolve. When you pray, always pray for the growth of the God's seed, within. Well, you can pray for that as well. Always pray for the growth of the God's seed within, in all souls on earth. Always consider that precious energy that one day will manifest itself on this and on other levels of consciousness as pure light, pure consciousness, and pure love.
Haven't we had enough of how things are here currently? There must be another way. There is another way. But in order for that other way to manifest, souls have to be brave enough to acknowledge and breathe and honour that other way. Not to be complacent, not to bury their heads in the sand, not to be content with being comfortable as the individual at the expense of the whole, but to stand up for what is right, honest, decent, truthful, kind, and to work from the heart and reject all else. To water that heart seed and to nurture it and to let it grow on behalf of themselves and on behalf of all humanity here. Chapters 11 and 12, the female principle, the male principle. Here are the Josephisms from these two linked chapters. From chapter 11, each growing soul contains within it a need and a desire to balance its masculine and feminine sides. And from chapter 12, the now is formed by the balance of male and female energies. So what are chapters 11 and 12, the female principle and the male principle, all about in a nutshell? As I said, these two chapters are linked, so we'll consider them together. But only briefly, as there's a richness and so much to contemplate in Joseph's words in these chapters that we could spend all afternoon covering them. And we still have a lot more to look at and to do. What I would recommend is that you please reread them, reread those chapters, and see how relevant they are when applied to current materially based ideologies regarding male and female energies, males and females across our world. What I will say is that in early Joseph trance demonstrations that we held here at the Sanctuary and at other locations in the UK, it was chapters 11 and 12 that perhaps raised the most queries and prompted the most questions at the time. Why? Because understanding chapters 11 and 12 requires a move away from material thinking and into spiritual thinking, requires us to step away from the material, earthly, literal interpretations of male and female. In these two chapters, Joseph explains that he's not simply talking about men and women as physical beings, but about male and female as energies, as vibrational forces that have specific roles to play in creative construction, in spiritual deconstruction, and in the maintenance of spiritual balance, that word again, balance on earth, and about how an imbalance currently in these forces, predicted by Joseph some years ago when the book was written, is causing so many problems across our world currently. Joseph invites readers to shift their thinking regarding the concepts of male and female into a higher perspective and understanding. He says everything has a male or a female charge, not just men and women. He reveals, for example, that the earth, contrary to popular belief, has a masculine charge, and that the moon, probably again contrary to popular belief, has a feminine charge. Here's Joseph from chapter 11, the female principle, and why it's vitally important that we balance these two energies.
What is the reason for there being a masculine and a feminine side to creation? The reason is that the subtle interpenetration of these energies produces a specific field within which souls can evolve. So the global masculine and feminine interplay in any one generation gives birth, literally, to a new set of circumstances when balanced for the next generation to experience. The correct balance and interplay between male and female energies creates the correct atmosphere within which the next generation of souls on earth can evolve spiritually. Now, if you take away either the influence of the masculine or the feminine side, you get an imbalance in the field, which the future generation must live in. You do not produce an ideal set of circumstances for the incoming set of souls to evolve in, and this leads to upsets. This leads to disillusionment of the souls of that new generation who are destined to live within that particular set of circumstances.
And here's Joseph from chapter 12, the male principle, again on the vital importance of balancing the two energies.
The feminine principle is a hugely creative force. Yet, to observe women and girls on Earth at the moment, you'd think that there is no such energy within them. Nevertheless, their souls have that potential. It has not been realised at the moment, but it is there. I would describe the feminine principle at the moment as being hidden, as being behind the scenes, as being perhaps dormant. The male principle has also undergone change and is struggling to express itself correctly in your current age. The male principle dominates unchanging circumstances. The male principle is a foundation stone. The male principle builds and preserves ways of thinking. Certain vibrational ideals are brought forward by the female principle and are then built upon, founded, preserved, protected by the male principle. The male principle is one of drawing in. The female vibration gives out. The male vibration draws in and solidifies. The two need to be in harmony, the feminine to expand, the male to draw in, so that temporary arrangements of matter can be created, can be visualised, can be brought into form as a result of male and female operating together. At the moment, there is a dominance of female energy, not only in females, but also in this upcoming generation of males, because they've been taught to think in the female way, and this is causing imbalances at all levels. It is causing imbalances in relationships because there's no consolidation. There's only this desire to move onwards always because of the dominance of the female energy. Things have to change, or you'll generate only apathy via the male vibration. There will be continued expansion of female energy, but nothing to expand, no new ideas, no consolidation of ideals to build on, no past from which to build a present, nothing that has gone before that is worthy to push ahead with. There has to be balance.
Now, this information was brought through by Joseph in 2008. Again, a prediction of what was to come. And is now all around us. Such trouble between the younger factions of the sexes. Such revulsion and confusion by many souls of what they are and what the opposite sex is. A perspective that comes only from the material self and does not acknowledge the greater spiritual energies that are there for a purpose and need to be at play and in balance as intended. The current generation is creating the backdrop for the next generation to play in. That's what we do. We create the next stage, as it were. Not the divas stage, but the atmosphere within which the next generation will live. And in order for that to be a stable, loving, nurturing, harmonious, balanced backdrop, it has to embrace and balance the male and female energies in creation. Why do we attack the opposite energy? It's not opposite, it's complementary. Why do we attack it? Why is it wrong for us to be what we are? And why do we attack what we are not and want to be what we are not? Now, I'm not talking about vibrations that perhaps would have been better in a different body, that tend more towards a certain male or female principle. But I'm talking about this current disgust. We're disgusted with men because they're men. And the word that's bandied about is, and I hate it, toxic. I'm not toxic, I'm just a person. I'm not toxic, I'm not poisonous. Neither are men. Neither are women. Stop attacking each other. It is together, those two energies, that create the next generation, create harmony. We're supposed to be integrated in this way, not to attack each other. But again, it's head mind. If we looked at the male and female principles as energies, if we considered them from the heart mind, we would appreciate that that duality is necessary for us to create as the angelic beings that we really are, to construct, to deconstruct. Take one away and the other doesn't function correctly. And look at the chaos of our world. Look at the chaos of our world. Male and female, appreciate what you are. I've been male, I've been female, as I'm sure you have in past lives. I remember being female. Nothing wrong with that. It was great. I accomplished what I needed to accomplish within that body and within that framework of energy. And this time I'm male. Mind you, my beard didn't look so good when I was female. I remember when I was younger, people would say, and you'll have heard it yourself, oof, men, oof, women. From what perspective are you saying those things? You have been male, you have been female. You are both, you are neither, but you need both energies in order to create correctly and to appreciate and love those energies. There's nothing wrong with them. That's the way things are supposed to be. In fact, we are reuniting ourselves since the time of the fall as integrated males and females. Aren't we?
Yes, yes, dear.
You wait till I get home. Chapter 13, light. A couple of Josephisms from this important chapter. We come to you to bring you light. This is the soul group. And all of my communications can be distilled to that one point. And the chapter can be summed up in just 4 wonderful words. The world needs light. The world needs light. Chapter 13 is hugely significant. A chapter of contrasts, of opposites. It's about light and it's about dark. It's about hope and it's about hopelessness. It's about freedom and it's about restriction. It's shocking and it's joyful in equal measure. Chapter 13 is shocking because in it Joseph points out that from the moment we are born here, this world offers and pushes on us an opinion about us, that it imposes on us and pressures us to accept from the moment we can understand. It tells us, for example, we're doomed to fail. No, we're not. We're doomed to grow old. No, we're not. We're doomed to struggle, to experience pain. No, we're not. And so many souls across this world believe this imposition. Imposition in that it is imposed on us mentally and physically. And they buy into it because they've been conditioned, not their fault, conditioned by society to do so from the moment they take their first breath here. Because we are surrounded by, we are bombarded by a field of negative consciousness that suffers from an absence of light, which is what we are, light. But chapter 13 is also joyful because it tells us that the transmitting and receiving of spiritual light changes everything. This is Joseph's soul group's mission in communicating with us. And this is our mission, all of us, as spiritual workers, to bring light into this dark world. Light is a communication of a sharing of God energy and God intent, of love. Light heals, light transforms in all situations. Light can heal the body, light can heal the mind, light can heal the world. And healing is at the core of all Joseph's communications. Everything that we do is healing. The Joseph communications are healing. The WMA is healing. The healing group, of course, is healing. That's all that we do. That's all that we need to do, to heal through light. They give us the means to heal everything that is wrong here. Everything. In chapter 13, Joseph also briefly refers to the fall. There's a big subject. Promising he'll tell us the full story of this world-changing event as time goes on, how it happened. How this world became the place that it is now. How there was a fall from grace, a literal fall from illumination, from light. This, of course, he did in his 4th book, the book that explains everything. Why things are as they are here and how to put things right here. Joseph reminds us that each of us is a light bearer. each of us. And that our mission here is to shine, to bring that light into this world, into small situations and into big situations. Light we can give to someone without them knowing it as we chat to them in a bus stop. Light we can also send to a situation across the world without anybody knowing that we're sending it. Jane, please.
Light is communication. Whenever you send out light to someone, you are communicating love to them. If you want to pray effectively, send out light to someone. Don't ask for someone to get better in a certain way or for them to think in a certain way or act in a certain way. Simply send them light.
And Joseph says the greatest weapon for good that can ever be used is a weapon that harms no one and benefits everyone. And that weapon is light.
Your mission, your job, is to bring light to your world, whether you use that light in the way you to speak to someone, to comfort someone, or whether you use that light to diffuse an argument between two people, or whether it is a matter of you sending out light to the other side of the world to help with conditions there, or of giving yourself light, of clearing your head.
Thank you. Chapter 14. And then after this chapter, we'll do this afternoon's special meditation. I hope you'll see why it's a special meditation. If it's not, I'll go home. Josephism. Well, chapter 14, first of all, Atlantis and the fall. So no small subjects there. Josephism, our civilization, is referring to his civilization, disappeared. The ability to blend and work with matter and light was lost and has still not been rediscovered. I mentioned this morning that I'd seen a UFO, a flying saucer, and I'm not mad, I hope. Well, that's not actually true. What I actually saw, courtesy of Joseph, was a schematic, a diagram of a flying saucer, if you like. It was an Atlantean craft. And it was a cutaway diagram. And I looked at it, and just for a split second, I was allowed to understand how it worked. It had no moving parts, yet it moved. It didn't pollute, didn't cause any damage anywhere. And I looked at this and thought, wow, this is wonderful. And as I looked at it, it faded away. And I can see a brief outline of it, but I have no idea how it worked. Not to be, not for us, not yet anyway. There are three significant points to this chapter, the clues in the title. Firstly, Joseph gives us insights into the workings and intentions of the Lords of Karma. Now, that's a highfalutin title, but they would be the last ones to say that's to want a title at all. It just means that this group of dedicated spirits is allowed, because of their spiritual evolution, to plan the milestones that will come up in an earthly life in order that that spirit, if it approaches those milestones and passes them correctly, will evolve so much more quickly, so that when it gets back home, first of all, it won't want to come back, which is wonderful. And secondly, it will have raised its vibrations significantly so that it can move up into higher frequencies and higher bliss and closer to the God that it is a part of. Joseph goes on to talk about karma, about how we are equipped to deal with karma while on earth, and how it is hoped that our experiences on earth, which we have decided to return to, whether or not we've decided to return because we want to do the work, we still have to appreciate that we attract karma from this vibration that we haven't cleared yet. It's hoped that that karma, which we've decided to return to, will convince us not to come back here in the future. And secondly, and this sounds like, it sounded to me at the time that it was like something from a science fiction novel or a fantasy novel. And I thought, oh, that's difficult to cope with, but it isn't. He reveals that he was once a citizen of what we would today term Atlantis. Again, it sounds like fantasy or legend, but I've seen Atlantis through Joseph's eyes. I've seen it. It existed. It was magnificent. Just that we close ourselves down to possibilities. This is where we come from. This is what we are. There haven't been past civilizations. That's it. That's a closed box. When we open the closed box, we find there are more things in heaven and earth, etc. And Jane, please.
We have to bring every soul to the point where it chooses not to come back here, where it chooses other levels of evolution, so that the earth can rest, so that it can lay fallow for a time and then be restored to its former glory. There have been other civilizations. I was part of one. I was linked with Atlantis. I'm showing Michael now a vision of buildings and a seashore and the mountains that were part of a city I visited many times. We had a different technology than you have at the moment. We used particle physics to move objects. We had transportation systems that were not based on crude mineral oils. We were able to move and rearrange buildings with our minds. We were able to heal people without touching them. We were able to place into objects the power of light. We had instruments that could build things if we concentrated on them. Tools that you would not understand today because your tools are based on material things only. You never incorporate spiritual elements into material objects. We did. We did.
So very different from today's world. Imagine. In Atlantis, they had holes of thought, where people could grow in knowledge and in freedom. You could think what you liked. Holes of thought to discover more about yourself. Imagine they lighted their streets and their buildings with an energy that wasn't electricity, that didn't pollute. I've seen it. I've seen these lights hovering in the air above the streets. Imagine they had a true democracy. There's a thing. Not a lip service democracy, but people were free to express what they thought, to discuss what they thought, to contribute via what they thought, to listen to other people, and to learn as a result of that interaction of ideas and ideals. But then in Atlantis, their ability, said Joseph, to change physical matter, they'd reached a point where they could change and experiment with physical matter. The supposed and perceived power that this brought them and the lust for this power changed the people there. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Sounds familiar. There was then more pain. There was then more death. And the Atlanteans suddenly began to create dark things, to experiment with dark things. And their ability to work with light for the good of all was lost. Again, isn't that what we appear to be on the brink of, or in the midst of today? History, once again, in a slightly different form, repeating itself. However, take heart, despite appearances.
The earth stands poised for a time of light, for a time of spiritual enlightenment. But this will not be without cataclysms, and the cataclysms I'm talking about are of a natural order rather than man-made. There will be vast changes to the earth over the next 60 years or so, but as a result of that, this time of peace, this time of love will come.
This time of peace, this time of love will come. Let no one try and dissuade you from that. Never be downhearted. It is coming. It must come. Joseph ends chapter 14 by explaining that the reason he's come back is to give people cause to stop and to think, to present them with their soul history, in other words, what they are, what they're capable of, where they come from, where they're going to, and to awaken them to possibilities, to say you are far more than you think you are, and to say there is a plan for this earth, and it's a move towards the light and not the darkness. So, we have 3 more chapters to cover, but I think at this stage it would be appropriate for us to undergo is the wrong word, that sounds like it's going to be painful, to enjoy this afternoon's meditation, which is quite special in some ways that you will discover, hopefully.